Welcome to the Excel Purpose Show with Counselor. Welcome. Today we have with us Chris Jones, serial entrepreneur and fiction writer. He has won a Rising Stars 40 Under 40 awards, co-founded a business that made the Inc. 5000 a list of fastest growing companies, not once, but 7 times in a row. So exciting. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Great to get a chance to talk.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how did you excel in this entrepreneurial journey? Because my understanding is you were jobless at some point and you were really deep in debt, right?
Yeah. Well, I started really young, right out of college. I graduated in 1990. There were no jobs. And I just decided, well, I'll create my own. No, I'm just started doing accounting and bookkeeping in the Princeton area of New Jersey. And I got lucky with my first client and I did a really good job there. And it just went on. And then I eventually got involved in tech startups. I really have a passion for tech. And this was still in the 90s. And I did okay with a couple of companies. In 99, I took a company, raised a couple $1 million for them, sold their software. They did text to speech. So our goal was to be able for people while they were driving that they could download an article. And remember, this is 98, 99, 2000. They could download an article and it would read to them so they wouldn't be distracted. That was leading edge technology. And we sold our software to Microsoft. I took the money I made from that company and then put it into a mobile gaming company in 2000. We worked really well. It was August 31st, 2001. I raised money just to get us through September. And then we had contracts on the table with Verizon, Vodafone, AOL Mobile, Deutsche Telekom. We were going to Japan to meet with Docomo. And then 11 days later, the universe changed. And nobody gave calls back. Nobody would return a phone call till like November. And I stretched that money out to December. And then my partner and I, we decided we had to close the company down. You know, he sold the technology to get some back his money. And then after having the best year of my life in 2000, making what I thought was like all the money in the world, which it wasn't, to now being $60,000 in debt, jobless, and an expensive lifestyle living in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And it really beat me up psychologically. And I grew up pretty poor, and so making some money was a big deal. And I think there's really nothing worse than being poor, making some money, and losing it all, and now having to rebuild it. And the pivotal moment that changed was I was on a phone call with a buddy of mine, and I'm Buddhist, and I was talking to one of my Buddhist buddies, and I was completely feeling sorry for myself, woe is me, and wah, 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 wah. And he said, "Don't worry about it, Chris. You're a survivor." I said, "What?" "Because you're a survivor. You'll get through it." I'm like, "God damn it, I am." And then after that, I really just got very determined. I gave myself 90 days and I'd get a brand new contract in 90 days. And I set this out. I called everyone I knew, emailed everyone I knew, anyone who would meet me, take them to lunch, do whatever. Sometimes they bought it for me because I was in such a bad state. And 89 days later, I got a contract with a nonprofit because I have a specialty in nonprofit accounting too. And that contract lasted 10 years. And it was it helped me rebuild my consulting practice, which I then in 2007 got tired of that. I got tired of selling my knowledge to people who didn't appreciate it. So I said, I'll just create a company. And I partnered up with 2 people in 2009, 2 friends of mine. And we built Durante Rentals, which is a construction equipment rental business. And we built that up in 10 years, 11 locations, 125 employees, and then sold it in June 2019.
I love the point you made about you made a goal, set yourself a goal for that 90 days. I think having that vision is really what gets people going. You made it with 1 day to spare.
1 day. Yeah, I was so determined. I was a competitive athlete my whole life, and I was a wrestler in college and then judo. And so for me, I always need that achievement goal, whether it was my fitness level or the next belt level, or I just always need a goal to set out. My whole life has kind of been, and I even have 4 areas of different goals, but I've always been very goal oriented, very achievement oriented. And that works to a point. And where it doesn't work is writing a novel. That is all process based. So I've had to completely change my entire way of approach and thinking about it. But it definitely helped. And I'm a big believer. You got to have goals in all the areas in your life. And I'm very particular. I have goals in 4 areas that I really kind of break my life into: my wealth and career, 2 very different things, but same quadrant. Then my health and fitness, my personal development, spirituality, however you want to call it, and then friends, family, and relationships. So I did that since I was in my 20s and really always looked out. And for me, just a little bit, we were chatting before, time freedom was always the biggest thing. To be in control of my time, for somebody not to own my time. And that was one of the reasons why I left consulting. I was like, I started figuring it out and I'm like, oh my God, I have every incentive in the world to work myself to death, because the only way I make more money is billing more hours. Assuming I can't raise rates, right? Then the only way you can do is bill more hours. And I said, this is stupid, because I will do that. You know what it was? I love the summers. You were saying you just went skiing. I love being around the water. That background behind me, that's my backyard in my house in Barbados. And that's what I love. I want to be 100 feet away from the water and no more. And I spent the entire summer of like 2007. I worked every weekend. I billed a lot. I did well that weekend. And then it got to like Labor Day weekend or the first week in September. I'm like, oh my God, how many summers do I really have in life? Do I really want to work? At the end of someone's life, and at the end of your life, no one's ever said, God damn it, I wish I worked more. Right? Yes. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. And so I think that's really important, for your listeners is, I like success. I was 3-time CFO of the year. I won a bunch of awards and it's fun. I like getting the awards. It was fun making money. It was fun, especially when you don't have any, and being able to afford some things and buying my first house. Those are really good things. But in the end, they're just things. And I think you have to have something that drives you more, in my opinion, that drives you more than just the money, because the money won't make you happy. I guarantee that. Money won't make you happy, right? But what will make you happy is a sense of purpose. How are you going to help others? That to me is like really big, is like, how are you going to, there were times in those 10 years that I worked at that company in my startup, it was miserable. It was absolute misery, absolute. And there were days I'd wake up and the first words out of my mouth were, oh, F. Yeah. And I'm an owner. I would drive to work. Like I'm an owner of this company and I'm miserable. Like, what is that? And no one should go through that. And it was just a lot of conflict in personalities and things like that. But I always drove myself. And every day, here's another question. Every day I always ask myself, and I remember asking it every day, like, am I doing what's in the best interest for my mind, for my health, for my purpose in life? For me, I'm Buddhist, so my karma. I ask that question every day. Am I doing what's in the best interest? How am I best out there doing things for the benefit that my work can benefit other people? So I think that, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, you were saying that purpose is what's going to drive you. How did you find that? And what is that purpose for you right now?
Well, I always wanted to write. So I started writing in high school, and my English teacher, Paul Buchanan, who I dedicated my book to, he was the first one who kind of really instilled it in me and thought I could actually do this. When I was young, I'd have all these I have a real vivid imagination. I have all these things, and I couldn't draw. I can't draw worth anything. So I would then write it out because I could describe it. And then I'd go to my friends and we were going to play this, make our worlds and make believe. And I would just describe, all these things when I probably should have been studying in school. And I was busy world building in school. But then it came time. So I was taking all these writing classes and I was part of a gifted and talented program, but I have a very practical side. I'm right brain and I'm left brain. And I did enjoy accounting, and I love numbers and analysis and things like that. So I have both sides. And I just realized that, the practicality of it. And even in my sophomore year, my second year in college, my English professor said, Chris, you're really talented. You should switch from accounting to English and pursue your writing. And I said, I grew up poor. I do not want to be a poor, starving artist. I'll go make some money and then I'll write. It just took me a long time.
Yeah. You know that you had such like a roller coaster journey. It's like there's the and then there's the there's like made a bunch of money, lost a bunch of money. Like, how do you get through that? Because I think most people, they want that financial stability. So that's what makes them do like a normal job that just pays the bill, as opposed to like chasing for this dream thing. How did that come about? What advice would you have for people that need that financial stability but also want to chase their dream?
Yeah, I talk a lot about people. I actually have a formula for that. Okay. So you have your full-time job, right? And that's 100% of your income, right? Then you have your side hustle or your other business that you're doing. When that business becomes 60 to 70% of your full-time income, it's safe to jump. Because now you're working 85 hours a week, 90 hours a week, and you can't do that for a long time. Your health will deteriorate. You're going to lose your friends and your relationships. You're going to be miserable. But you can do it for a short period of time. I call it being strategically unbalanced, where you actually, for a period of time of no more than 6 months, you can do this for 6 months, you can focus on one big thing and do everything you need to do. So say that, all right, great. It's January. I'm going to now focus on getting my side hustle, my side business up, and I got to get to 70%. And then as soon as I do that, it's safe to quit, because now you got that other 40 hours that you didn't do. All you have to do is 30% more after that. So the jump isn't that big, and you're going to have all this extra time, right, that you didn't have, plus focus. But I always tell people, especially if they're risk averse, is you really need to have that, get to that 70%.
Oh, I love that, because I tell people the same thing. I've never actually thought of it as to equate it to a number, because I just kind of go, you're going to get to this tipping point where you just know that this is now the right time. But yeah, 60 to 70%, that makes sense.
Yeah, it depends how risk averse you are.
Yeah.
Right. And some people, and here's the hard thing, like, it's okay if you're single with no kids and everything, right? You can take this, which is, I don't have children. My businesses were been my children, and I made that decision at a young age, and I'm okay with it. I love kids, but I love being a professional uncle. It's great. Give them back, and I go home, get back to work. So you make those choices, but say you already have your family, and you want to be a good dad, a good mom, a good parent, and a good supportive spouse or partner. Then you need to put that in there too, or realize, and then have this conversation with your family, like, hey, I'm going to be really busy for this, and it's not going to be forever, but I need this time. I hope I can get your support. The other thing I tell people, that if you're in a partnership, you need to get your partner's support. And because I saw that in my family, when my dad went out on his own, and my mom said, well, I don't want to stand in the way of a man's dream, but that's not support, right? She wasn't all that keen about my dad taking a home equity loan on it, and he didn't do well. The business went down. I was there. That was like my first turnaround. I'm like 24, and I'm telling my dad, no, you can't do this. You can't. But I eventually quit. I wrote a resign because I'm going to hate your guts, because if I keep working with you, I'm going to hate you, and I don't want to hate my dad. So sometimes family stuff doesn't work. It's just we work so differently. He's very seat of the pants, and I'm a planner, and just take care. So, but really get your base behind you. They really, because there's going to be days when you come home and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And you might be this far away. You might be that 3 days away from success. You might be at that 88th day, and the next day is the day you get that contract. And you're like, oh, I don't know. And if you have a very risk-averse partner, you're right, you shouldn't do it. You're right. You should go back to just focus on the full-time job. rather than the person finding where they're, really going to be happy. So if you have that partner on that day that says, no, you're so close, you can do it. You need that cheerleader. And if you have that at home, then that's great. Or whatever support, your best friend, whatever it is, your dog that is always happy to see you.
So I love that. And that 90-day thing you had, you made it at day 89.
Yeah.
What was going through your head just before you got it? Were you thinking 90, like there's certainty is there, you will definitely make it at 90? Where was your head at?
Nothing in my life ever works direct. It's not like I contact you and then you have a project and you give it. It's I contact you, you don't have anything, but you know somebody, and then that person knew somebody, and you said, oh, this would fit. And that's how it came to me. I went to a networking event, met someone, talked to them, hit it off well. They talked about me within their firm, and then they got me the project. So I think it's just, I've always been tenacious. And I think because even in athletics, I wasn't the most talented. So I always had to work harder. But that's just, I knew that when you don't have the ability, but I still wanted to play and succeed and win, I just said, I'll work harder. And that was okay for me to do. I can put in more time. And I always say, I can always put in more time, more effort, work harder, study harder, go find more, go talk to the people I need to talk to. I didn't really have mentors. I called them like my 60-second mentors. There were people I would talk to, and I knew that they knew something, and I would just talk to them. I think a good dose of humility is really, really helpful, because when I had my very first project, I was usually the last one there along with the owner. So I'd wait till everyone went home. I still had work to do. And then I'd go in and I'd talk to him and ask him questions. How do you build a successful company? How do you find good people? I had these lists of questions that I would ask every time I got to an entrepreneur, and they're doing the same thing I wanted to do. So, have that and be willing to do that. Be humble. Don't think you know everything, because I knew I didn't. And I think that's really, really important. And constantly try to get new skills.
I love that.
That's fun too.
You dropped a lot of gems there, and people may not have even picked that up, but that's awesome insights. It's like getting close to the people that has what you want, but it's like, show up, put in the effort. You hung around. It's like, yeah, everyone probably went out for drinks or whatever it is. That's the fun stuff. It's like, no, you hung around till the opportunity is available to have answers that you wanted to know about, and you seek for that chance to be able to ask that.
Present sacrifices for future benefits. That's always been my mantra. So I remember I was the youngest accountant hired by this environmental firm, and they sent me all over the country to these really disaster sites, and I had to handle the accounting on it. And I was going on exchange to Newcastle upon Tyne in the north of England. And so I had to get all the money. My parents couldn't help me. So I had to make all the money. And so I was working 80 to 100 hours a week of nonstop, no meetings. A meeting would have been a break, no meeting. It's just constant work. And every day I had this visual, because I'm a visual person, I'm visual kinesthetic. I had this visual image of a dollar bill every day across the Atlantic until I got there. And every day I'm like, all right, I'm closer. I'm one step closer. I'm one day closer, and then I'll be able to go. And so I sacrificed the summer. And I grew up, I was living in New Jersey, and even where I was 10 minutes from the New Jersey beaches in the shore, 10 minutes. All my friends are partying, having a good time. I am not having a good time. I am not. It's stressful. It's hard. There's a disaster going on that you have to handle. But then I got to backpack through Europe for 3 weeks, changed my life. My time in Newcastle upon Tyne changed my life. And I still have friends from the UK. I'm still very close with the university there. I have 5 scholarships set up there. Some for entrepreneurs and some for creative people. And that changed my life. So I think if you're willing to make sacrifices, and I think that's really, really important. I guess then one other thing I would say, live underneath your means. in that area where we're talking about other tips when you're trying to get your side business off the ground, definitely live underneath your means so you have extra capital to put into your business.
Yeah. I keep trying to tell people, don't spend money that you don't have. Stop buying things that you don't need.
Oh my God, no.
Love that, what you've just shared.
Debt should only be used for something that you're going to get a return on investment for.
Yes, well said. Yeah.
If you can't, do not use debt for that. You got to earn. You got to use it out of cash flow and out of income. Do not only go into debt for things, whether it's equipment that you need or something that's going to last a while. But if you're like, have to go into debt to go to this conference and so you're traveling a hotel and it's not 100% that you're going to be able to make the contacts to get the revenue, think twice. Maybe you got to wait till next year. Maybe you got to save up one more year. Maybe that'll make you want it more. And then when you're thinking about going out to dinner, maybe say, yeah, you know what, I'll just cook at home. When you look at the car, right? Instead of getting the brand you could probably afford the least, no, get the lesser one. Who cares? You'll get a nicer car later. So the more you can make that present sacrifice for a future benefit, you will definitely be in greater shape. I mean, even now, like my financial advisor, like one of them makes fun of me because like, you know, you can spend money. I'm like, but I don't need anything.
Yes.
When I was living in Barbados, after I left New York for Barbados during the pandemic, because to write my novel and just to get out of New York. And that's where I really learned how little you need. Pair of flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt. And that's what I lived in. I was there for a year and a half. I bought one shirt, one pair of shorts, and like a t-shirt. That was it. I did. And half the clothes I didn't even wear that I brought. Didn't even wear half.
Yeah.
So you need so little, you know, to really get by, depending on the type of business. Now, if you have a business that you have to really dress up for, okay, that's understandable. But for most of us, you know, if it's tech oriented or even a lot, I mean, even here, like, you know, you can dress pretty casual, really be conservative. And it's not just, you know, to say, oh, he's an accountant, no wonder he's like that. But I think when you don't have anything, you will thank me because of that rainy day. And you're like, oh my God, or this project that comes up. Say you have that. Now you have this rainy day fund. And now you can use that money to invest in, and maybe you need to do an advertising program. Maybe you need to do something like that to build your brand.
Yes.
And you're going to be thankful. The other thing is, I don't know if it's like this with your listeners in Europe and Australia, but credit rating in America, having a good credit rating is so important. And I tell everyone when they ask me, what's the most important thing? I'm like, having a good credit rating. I got this back in 1996. I got a $50,000 line of credit. I cannot tell you how many times that has bailed me out. And I don't raise it. I've never made it more than 50. You know, but I can't tell you how many times I relied upon that. Like after I lost everything, I'd already maxed that one out. There were even times during when we had the startup. So when we started the company at Durrani Rentals, like we didn't take a salary.
Mm.
So I still had a house, I had a good consulting practice I got rid of. And, you know, I still had expenses, you know, I still had my lifestyle. And so I was able to just draw upon that. So pay attention to your finances. I know for a lot of people, it's really hard. I get it. I work with a lot of creative people. And when I had my practice, you know, it's scary. Don't like it. You don't want to deal with, what do you mean? I got to collect receipts and all that. Yeah. But if you learn just the basics, learn just the basics of how to read a profit and loss, very, very important, and how to read a balance sheet, just a little bit. You don't have to be an expert. It will serve you well because then you can outsource it. So I'll give you an example the other way around. So I never had to deal with any of the marketing in my companies. There's always somebody else handling that. I'm lousy at marketing. And now I have my book and I have to learn marketing. And it's horrible. I hate it. It's torture for me. where the finance stuff is easy, but marketing is really, really hard. But now you just got to learn how to like it. My Buddhist teacher said, he had this really good story where he was doing yoga and he couldn't do a headstand to save his life. And he hated it. And then he woke up one day and said, you know what? I'm going to make the headstand my favorite thing. Headstand's going to be my favorite thing. And that's what he did. And eventually he did it. And he did become his favorite thing.
So
and
yeah,
I
that's
did.
really cool. Tell us about this book. I've been meaning to ask you because you was from an accountant. It's like, okay, people told you, you should focus on your writing and you've been really interested in it. What have you been brewing up? Like, what have you got? You've released something already, right?
Yeah, it's
like
called Headcase.
Yeah.
Headcase, yeah. It'll be a series. This one's called Book One, Shock and Denial. And it's about Dr. Andrew Beck. This follows a week in the life of Andrew Beck, who's the go-to sports psychologist for pro athletes who are troubled. And there's not a head he can't fix except his own. Right. And when his own inner demons rise to the surface, he misuses some of his inside information on athletes in a bet. And it leads him down a path of blackmail, a mysterious murder, life or death bluffing. And his only way out is to go all in. And it's really about, if the theme behind it is, if you don't discover your demons, they're going to destroy you. And it doesn't matter if you're rich and famous or a pro athlete, if you don't solve for your major issues and your traumas, it will bring you to your knees. And as a competitive athlete, I've did a lot of research as well as talking to people and what I witnessed myself and how much athletes have really they've had some horrific experiences and how they're able to compartmentalize their life, but it still affects their sport. And there's really not a whole lot we're just now starting to really hear about mental health in sports. Mm-hmm. So like the whole idea just came from because of failure. And I always thought about what happens when a really elite athlete fails and how do they deal with it? And I thought, well, I guess they get a sports psychologist. And then I thought, because my favorite question is what if, as a writer, well, what if that sports psychologist is more messed up than the athlete? And so in comes Dr. Andrew Beck, who's the son of Ted Beck, a Masters champion in golf. And Andrew was a child prodigy at 5 years old, but he hated golf. He didn't want to play, but he was really good. And his father drove him to a breaking point, to the point right when he was about to turn pro, he walked away. But yet he still has this competitive fire in him, and that never left. And so it comes out, and I firmly believe this, if you don't solve your traumas, they are going to come out. So he has this competitive fire, so it comes out through gambling. Because if he doesn't have that rush of excitement, whether he's gambling his money, his career, because it's pretty messed up for a sports psychologist to be gambling, right? And he goes to this kind of underground club called the 5 Iron, and that's where he does his gambling. And so it was a lot of fun to write. It's been something I'd been working on. It won an award in May from Literary Titans and a Golden Book Award. And it's been interesting for me, and it was really great to write, and it was something I always wanted to do. And I think it's really important when we set out to do something, and even it's 30 years later, I still got a chance to do it, and luckily, and I set my life up to do it, so. And I also knew, you see the background, that was my backyard. I wonder, every day when I would wake up, and this is the part of being realistic, never forgetting where you come from. I get up, do my morning meditation, do my exercise, and then get to work and realize, hey, I'm living an author's dream come true. I'm writing on a beach. So you better write a goddamn good book, and you better get to work.
Yes.
And that was that voice inside me. It's like, hey, don't mess about. People would give their right arm for this. So go do a good job. And that was that inner voice.
So you do this positive self-talk or reinforcement for yourself. I just want to
I don't know
back
how positive that side of my brain is. He's not very positive. So he likes to kick me in the ass.
Can we just go back a little bit where you mentioned when you wake up, right? You were saying that you do meditation and what else was it? So tell us about that. What's your routine like?
Yeah.
What do you kind of
Morning
say
is,
to yourself? Because I think that would be really intriguing, because most people would get up and they're probably thinking, oh, I'm dragging myself out. I don't want to get up. What happens the moment you wake up? Do you like whack the alarm clock, or is this just like, okay, it's another day and
no.
you jump straight up? What happens?
Yeah, I'm incredibly annoying. I explode out of bed. So I've
Okay.
always been this way. Now, it wasn't like this when I was working with my company, because it was just so awful. And so I would wake up and the first word out of my mouth would be, I was hitting the snooze alarm. And this is how you tell if you're right on the right path too, right? Hitting the snooze alarm. First word is an explicative. I don't want to do this. I'm complaining all the way to work. But now I wake up and I'm like, this is great. I get up, I'm
Yes.
happy. And that's my usual state. I've annoyed girlfriends in the past because I wake up, bong, like, get up, let's play. Let's have fun.
Yes.
And that's how I am. I'm like a little kid sometimes. But I get up. Meditation in the morning is the most important thing. Don't leave home without it. Or sit down, even 10, 15 minutes, it's really important. And the whole point is, it's not the place to work out the Gordian knot of your life. It's a place to be quiet and allow the creative to take over, to allow just to quiet your mind and allow peacefulness, allow wisdom, intelligence, allow it to all come to you. And everything else in my life, I got to do. In here, I got to stop. I got to not do. I got to receive and wait. And I'm not very good at waiting. I'm not very patient. But that's part of the practice, is sitting down, meditation, getting your head really clear. And then when I get out,
People don't know what this is, I think. Like, I don't meet many people that has a regular meditation routine. So, okay, so let's just say they imagine, yep, they exploded out of bed. Now what did they do? How do they meditate? Do you do a cross-legged thing? Do you sit on a chair and just close your eyes? What's that process like? If they were willing to do 5 minutes of it, what does that look like?
I would sit however you're comfortable, whether it's a chair, you want to sit down on, I have a cushion. I'd say be comfortable. Don't have your body hurt, because that's just going to distract you. Later you can do different things like that. But in the beginning, if you only have 5 or 10 minutes, but then if you're only going to do to me, it's kind of like you need a little bit more than that, because you're just sort of getting warmed up. So I think you really need to go 15, but let's just say you got 5 or 10 minutes. What you want to do is not go through the laundry list in your to-do list in your head. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I do it. And then I got to stop myself and push it away. Say that this is your little time for yourself to just be focused on, just breathe. You can do that. Here's the easiest meditation in the world that everybody can do. Breathe.
Yeah.
You do it anyway. But now maybe just count your breaths. Count 1 and see if you can get to 20 or 30 before you get distracted in the shiny object. There are lots of meditation apps out there.
It is.
You can use Insight Timers, one I use, but there's Headspace, but just take the time. If anything, just maybe sit and just feel your body. You can do that too. It's called a body scan. Where am I feeling anxiety? Where am I feeling a bit of pain? Now, is that pain a physical pain because of something I did? Or is it an emotional pain? Does my stomach feel kind of tight? Do I feel a tightness in my chest? And just feel and connect with what you're feeling in your body. Again, I'm visual kinesthetic, so it's easy for me to connect with my body. But for people who tend to be more in their head, it's hard. Try to force yourself down. And you really got to kind of picture pushing your emotions into your body and like, okay, where do I hurt? Where do I feel? I'm sad about something. Being really honest with your emotions. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. Why am I even feeling angry? It maybe you just had a bad dream, or maybe you just something from the previous day. Try not to work out that. Just touch that emotion. Anger, sadness, maybe there's joy. Wonderful. Fear, shame. Those are the base emotions. Where can I get to those? And where am I feeling it in my body? And connect. And then the answers will come. And that's the real magic of it. The answers all of a sudden come. Yeah. It's really, really interesting. And it's a lovely process, and you just connect with what's going on. And you'll find when you go out into the world, you're a little bit more patient. You don't have to honk your horn at the guy like, all right, you cut me off, you're a jerk. But maybe that's your journey today, and just not being that person who's so wound up. And when you are working your full-time job, managing perhaps a family or just your life, and then running your side business, it's really easy to get very wound up and very stressful. And I think it's really important that you need to be in touch with that and understand, like, okay, where's my stress coming? I mean, for me, during the 6 months of selling the company from January 2019 to June 28th, 2019, those were the 6 hardest months of my career. Up till 2:00 in the morning, incredibly stressful. And the only thing that saved me was meditation and exercise. I had a trainer.
Wow.
And I used to go out at lunchtime. I was like, I am taking, because I know what it was going to do to me. I'm like, I have to take care of myself. I have to be physical about something, and that'll help me. And it did. It definitely helped. And because those days were long, they were stressful. I'd never sold a company before. I'd raised money, but it's very different than selling a company. And then all 3 of the partners, myself and we all had different deals. So that made it, we're almost competing against each other. It was really, really hard. There were 2 days that I gave myself a red card because I sent myself home because I was so stressed. I knew, like, the next person from my staff, if they walked in the office, I was just going to explode. I'm like, I should not be around people.
Yeah.
I should not be around them because they're wonderful. My staff was wonderful. They worked so hard, and they didn't deserve me to be frustrated and stressed and maybe raise my voice to them and hurt their feelings, when that's the last thing in the world I want to do. So I'm like, I should not be around human beings. So I just went home and I worked from home because I was so concerned about, and I think you need to have that presence of mind that when you are in those dark states. The nice thing about, in my book, Andrew's a psychologist, but yet he doesn't see how he compartmentalizes his life. He doesn't see these things that he's so brilliant in therapy, but yet for him in his own life, the choices that he makes, you're like, what are you doing? And we do that to ourselves. Sometimes it's really easy to give advice and harder to take our own. So I find those moments in life when I'm really stressed, really anxious, I have to really be quiet and understand and like, okay, what am I going to do? But the worst thing we can do is then take that out on someone else. So we need to be aware when we're at that point, when we're at our breaking point. And so we don't take it out on the people who we love or the people we care about. That's real. If anything, meditation is a practice for that. If anything, being very aware of who you are, how you deal with stress is really, really important. You want to go for it? You want to go for gold? Great. I applaud you. But now know your mind, know how your body acts, know what you need to do to support and self-care, not only for you, but for the people around you. So you're not a miserable bastard every time you're around.
Yes.
And if you are going to be a miserable bastard, do what I did. Go home, live by yourself. Don't be around people. And that's what I did. I went out like 4 times in 6 months because I just was not, I wouldn't have been pleasant. And I'm a pretty pleasant person, but I knew during that time I wasn't. I was too stressed.
I love how you're sharing that honesty. So and so people can see, okay, that has been me at some point, but it's like that next step of, hey, did they explode at someone, or did they have enough self-awareness and control to know, okay, this is not the time that I should be out there because I don't want to say something that I don't mean. And what I love is that your book is written in a way where it's storytelling, because you're doing it as supposed to be like, hey, these are the theoretical stuff, this is what you should do. But because you're telling a story, I can imagine that would be much easier to take in as the reader. So I'll be sure to drop the link. So it's Headcase, Book 1, Shock and Denial.
Right. And you can go to my website is www.chriskjones.com. And if you sign up for the mailing list, you can get the first 7 chapters for free.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Thank you for letting
I
us
figure
know
if you
that.
don't like it after 7 chapters, don't read it. But if you like it, then go buy the book,
Makes
So
perfect sense. And
yeah, it's fine. I'm really doing this. I'm doing it less for the money and this one, and more to raise awareness about mental health in general, about healing our traumas, our generational traumas, which is something I'm really big about. We all have them. And then also just raising about mental health in sports, that athletes, again, they're not on the top of people's compassion list. Look at what happened to Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, Kevin Love. I mean, so many athletes are now starting to come out. Michael Phelps, in really seeing his documentary, Weight of Gold, it's really, really big. And what happens to Olympians after they win gold, and how many have committed suicide. It's sad. But if you think about someone, it makes sense, because most professional athletes have sacrificed everything. They didn't do the things that they did in teenage years while everyone else was having fun and this and that. They were doing their sport, their love.
yeah,
But they made a lot of sacrifices in friendships and relationships, in their life experience, things they just didn't even have an understanding of because somebody took care of that. And so when, even you have all the success and you come back, and what's next for them? For a lot of pro athletes. So I during my research, like professional basketball players, they were measuring their anxiety levels, and their anxiety levels were the same as men and women on the front lines.
right.
That's how serious this is, and how much they have to do in, how much they've sacrificed to win. You see the images of the person out, it's raining, it's snowing, and they're shooting baskets, they're dribbling the ball, they're doing whatever they need to do when everyone else is inside and being comfortable. It takes sacrifice. Most things will not happen without a level of sacrifice. I don't like absolutes. I try not to speak in absolutes. And I mean, somebody might just get lucky and have everything just come to them. But for most people, it's going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. And that's okay, because at the end, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I remember the day after I sold the company, I flew down for a vacation in Barbados, and I remember being on the plane and just being overwhelmed. And I was just happy the pain was stopping. It wasn't even the money at that point. I was just happy the pain was stopping. And really, I had to pull my hood over because I was in tears. It was just such a painful experience. So be careful what you wish for, and do it the right way, and work with people who are going to support you, who believe in you, who you can have a disagreement and have a process for your disagreements, rather than yelling and screaming and shouting and all that stuff. That doesn't work. That find the people who you can push yourself and be supportive. I think that's really, if you're going to have partners in a business, don't just get that partner because, wow, they're really talented or they're really good at that thing that I suck at. Go find the one that's really it's like a marriage. You guys got to be decent friends. It helps, because that means when the chips are down, you're going to fight for each other rather than just fight for your own wallet. Which you hear stories, I'm sure you've heard that, right? That things went sideways and everyone's just looking after themselves. And I think that's really important as well, that if you are going to have partners, really vet each other out. Because in the beginning, it's all exciting. We're doing this new thing. We're going to change the world, right? Yeah. Wait until money comes in. Wait till the first round of funding comes in, or wait till money gets tight, and let's see how it goes, which is another good reason to sort of take your time, and before you make that leap, and find out who your true friends really are, and find out. This is one thing I observed. There's two kinds of entrepreneurs. I'm being a little bit basic here, but the two types of entrepreneurs that I've found, there's the one entrepreneur that I found through my years of consulting. They wanted the corner office. They wanted a nice car. They wanted the money. They wanted the desk. They wanted the nice trips. They wanted to fly first class. They wanted to be called boss. They wanted all that. And then there was the other type of entrepreneur that said, that's messed up. We can do that better. You want to help me? You and me? We can do that so much better. And it was about making something better rather than making a pile of money. You can do it. There are talented, smart, brilliant people that can go out and make a bundle of money. But for me, I want to be around people who want to go on a journey with me, willing to fight a battle, willing to go to war with, and that we're going to learn something about ourselves and each other and be supportive and have that really good relationship. And you don't have to be best of friends. You can just be really good work colleagues. But then, understand that. But just be careful who you bring into your business. And just because they're the smartest person you ever met or the most talented person doesn't necessarily make them a good business partner. A very talented human being, good for them. You can celebrate that. But as a business partner, you want someone who's really going to have your back.
So much wisdom. Thank you so much for being here today, Chris. Last question, where would the listeners find you? What's the best place?
Yep, definitely. You can go to my website, like I said, www.chriskjones.com. My Instagram is Headcase_novel. Same for Twitter. And Facebook is Chris K. Jones author. And LinkedIn, you can just go find me. If you want to see what I did in life, LinkedIn is Christopher K. Jones. There's a lot of Joneses out there. So
I'll be sure to drop the links for the guys.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you so
Thanks.
much,
Yeah.
Chris.
And then again, you can go out and get the first 7 chapters free and enjoy it.
Yes. Sounds amazing. I'm sure they will get on. Like usually people only give say the first chapter or so. So by giving the first 7 chapters, that's really if you got into the book and you loved it, you would just continue. So
that's what I thought.
Amazing.
I thought, yeah, if you like it, if you don't like it after 7, I wouldn't want you to buy it.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Well, thanks again. This was fun. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you so much.
Me too.
Excel in life, live your purpose, be free.